All right, so we're live. Let me just go ahead and open up the live stream on my computer now so that I can see everyone who's in the chat box. Okay, so we're going to give people, I don't know, maybe about 5 minutes to start filtering in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And today my guest is Crystal, and she's going to share her testimony of how she found Christ in just a little bit. So everybody just hang on there for 1 second. Hey Kate, how you doing? Yeah, we're running just a little bit late. That's the life of living with children. So my guest and I both had children that would not go to bed as early as we had anticipated. So it was running just a little bit late. So Crystal, maybe why we wait for people to filter into the chat room. If you just want to tell a little bit about yourself, maybe generally, what part of town you're from, maybe how you found the channel, just, any information you're comfortable giving out to everyone just to let them know who you are.
Yeah, sure. I actually got your channel information from Watchmen of the Harvest. I believe he used one of your videos. And so I do follow a lot of the informational videos that he gives out. Your video spoke to me. I can only attest that to being of God because I've been wanting to share my testimony, but I didn't want to cast my pearls before swine and just give it to anyone. And I didn't know how to go about it. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise answered. I'm 33. I am from Maryville, Indiana, originally from Homewood, Illinois. And I actually, I would say I've been submissive to Christ for the last 3 years of my life. Um, I've known who God is my whole life. But that's just like a little bit of my background. And if you hear a baby, I do have a little 9-month-old with me right now.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Well, we got about 20 people in the chat right now. I know it's a little bit late for some folks, especially on the East Coast. So maybe we'll just go ahead and get started. And, when people start filtering in, they can catch up later or just watch the video. What I'm going to do first is I just have a little prayer that I've said for my past couple of guests, just something that meant a lot to me. So we'll just do this quick prayer. And then we can go ahead and get started into your testimony and just go into all the things that you've been through in your life. I've read through your testimony myself, and you've been through some really deep things. So it's going to be incredible for some people to hear that. But go ahead and get started. So, dear Lord, thank you for providing the ministry of allowing others to share their testimonies here on this channel. Just as Crystal said, she was looking for an outlet, and you had provided it to her. Thank you for having her to have the courage to come on and share this with other people so that she may impact their lives and either strengthen them if they've already been saved, or if they are not saved, give them the curiosity to seek your love. When you spoke about the persecution of the saints, you said, "Do not be anxious how you are to speak or what you are to say. For what you are to say will be given to you in that hour. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you." So I pray that you help Crystal and I find the words and meaning which you wish to convey through us today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Yes, that's exactly why I was like, let's just go with it because I don't want to sit here and prepare a 10-page paper.
Yeah. And if it comes from the heart, that's the best thing.
Yes. So I guess, yes, I will just start from the beginning. I do come from a broken home. My father was, when I was little, he was a very hard worker. My mother was a drug addict and alcoholic. So he was 18 and she was 16 when I was born. And basically my dad wasn't home because he was always working and my mother cheated on him. And I saw all these things. I saw their arguments. I saw the cheating. I saw everything. My mother left. I was about 2 and I was about 3 and my sister was about a year and a half, and she started leaving and I would be left alone with her. I'd have to figure out what was wrong with her when she cried. I'm gonna try really hard not to cry through this because it's stuff I haven't talked about in a long time. Um, so I had to figure out how to grow up really young. So I've always been kind of a carer and nurturer, I guess by nature. And I don't know how I knew about God back then, besides supernatural, the Holy Spirit. It just had to have been a covering that was over me. I mean, from my grandmother was Catholic, the whole background of the family's Catholic. So um, someone somewhere was praying for me, looking out for me. But long story short, with the whole childhood thing, my father and mother divorced. Our mom left us when I was about 5. So it was just a really hard little young childhood that I remember and my sister completely blocks out. So she doesn't remember anything. So I've had to talk to her about it sometimes. We do not know where my mother is. My sister did find her once when she was about 18, and I couldn't talk to her. It wasn't in my heart at that point to forgive her. Um, so because she had found her and she was still a drug addict and a drunk, and she had nothing had happened, nothing had clicked that you have these children, and it again, long story short, my father did remarry, and we did live with my grandmother for 2 years while he found someone else. So I'm gonna try to keep this as clear as I can. If I skip things, because it's my own head, I know what went on.
Yeah.
But if it gets confusing, you let me know.
Okay.
So we went to live with my grandmother for 2 years, and my father during that time kind of tried to get his stuff together, and he actually was working at a bar and he found a new woman. So after 2 years of being in a Catholic school and living with my grandmother was a very loving woman. She spoiled us, she took care of us. We had a good 2 years there. Then we came back home. Um, as far as I know, when I was younger, my father did love us and treat us nicely when we did see him. So when we came back to him and he had remarried, um, the only way I can look at it now, looking back on it, is we reminded him of the previous wife, our mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
So nothing we did was good enough. He was very strict, to put it mildly. I mean, our punishments ranged from being chained to our bed to screwing our windows shut to hitting us with 2x4s. I mean, it was we never felt loved. Um, so it was hard. And I actually did go to DCFS when I was like in 4th grade, and we tried to get it taken care of that way, but the police officer, the follow-up was just stupid. It was a phone call and my dad was standing right there. So they said,
Oh man.
is your dad still hurting you? No, because he's standing right here and he's going to kill me if I say something. So it was just, I tried to get away so many times. um I took the brunt for a lot of things that my sister did, that because I didn't want to watch her get hit. So
And how old were you again when you went back with your dad?
Um, 8, 4th grade. I
8.
was I was 4th grade, so 9 probably. Sorry. Um, and that lasted until 1 second. Sorry. That lasted until I was 16 and I finally left for real because I couldn't take it anymore. I we didn't do anything. We weren't bad kids. It was just the strict. I mean, I couldn't really walk around my own house. I would drop glasses, like when I was trying to unload the dishwasher, because he'd be standing there watching me if I didn't do it right or the way he told me to do it. It wasn't like I was this kid that was a bad kid that needed to be hit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
It was for
And
stupid
you
things.
said the woman that he was dating, was she in the household too?
Yes, she was. And she had had her own baby about a year in. And every time something happened, she would leave and take her kid to her mother's house and leave us with him. So, I mean, she didn't care about us at that point.
That she was
Um,
she just as abusive as he was to you guys, or
she looked at us as being disrespectful to our father, because I mean, like I said, when I look back on it now, she loved him and she was probably scared of him.
yeah.
I didn't learn things until later on, because my sister didn't leave, she stayed, that he did things to her too, which I didn't know about. So, um, as far as like hitting her goes and stuff, but they were not done, that wasn't done in front of us, so we didn't know. It always felt like they were teamed up together against us. Um, so I guess, okay, so when I left there, I was just a big bag full of pain. Like I was just, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, where I was going. I had a big heart for animals. So I had actually found a job when I was that age when I had left. And I was like, it was like a doggy daycare where there was grooming and boarding and daycare. And the woman who owned the place, she kind of like helped me out by letting me stay in a room in her house for a little while. Um, and these were the years where I was living with someone who felt sorry for me and who had a special place in her heart for me because I worked really hard to her business because it was just my personality. Everything I do, I do 100%. So, I mean, it was beat into me to do it 100%. So it was just the by default. Um, so during those years, from 16 to about 22, those were the years where I don't really know how to describe it, but I was lost. I was just totally lost. My parents, I mean, my family was gone. I had no more discipline, so it was kind of like one of those situations where I left and I had no one telling me to not do anything anymore. So I went crazy. The first person who gave me attention, which was a woman, um, I ended up having a 9 month, relationship with the woman, and I'm not a lesbian at all. I just at that time decided I'm going to be a lesbian. And because this woman gave me attention, it was 9 months of my life, and it was just, it was insane how because I was so hurt and lost, I just went with whatever attention came my way during those years. I mean, it was a relationship where I went through these cycles where I just treated the person that I was dating like my God. Because I wasn't really I wasn't practicing any faith. I had gone to church throughout the years, but I felt like I believed in Jesus and I was just saved and I could do whatever I wanted to do. So it didn't matter. I didn't understand the concept that like I do now, that it's not about just, I mean, for example, like Satan believes in Jesus, but he doesn't submit his
Yeah.
life. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm running around like a crazy woman, and I look back on it now and I'm like, he delivered me from a lot of things even when I didn't ask for it. I mean, I may not have had like my dad there, beating it into me, but God kept giving me chances, to just fall on my face and then come back and then fall on my face and come back. So after this relationship had ended, I had gone off to college, and I had had some, one night stands and flings and all just bad lust things and drinking and, smoking marijuana and just experimenting with things that were, you know, I look back on it again and I'm like, I can't believe he still had me in the palm of his hand the whole time because I was rebelling. It was that stage where I should have had parents there to tell me or to talk to about these certain things that I was doing. And I didn't have them because I was, so eventually I came home. I didn't graduate. It fell through. And I'm still grooming at this lady's shop and trying to get my life, together, but, I'm doing it without God. So it wasn't working very well. Again, I was in another relationship, this time with a man, and I had gotten pregnant. And he was 2 years younger than me, and his parents did not like me because of my lifestyle and because of the fact that I didn't have a family. Um, and so I actually believed all the scientific mumbo jumbo about how, babies they weren't alive until a certain, I don't even know, because I can't think like I used to think back then. That's why
Mhm.
this is so hard, because I look back on it and I'm like, I can't even believe some of the things that I've done. Like, I just there's no guilt there, obviously, because Christ has lifted all of it from me. But I look back on it now and I just think I believed these worldly lies that people get sucked into when they don't have, Christ. And I had gone and went to an abortion clinic, and I had an abortion. And there were people standing out front. I do remember picketing, telling me that it wasn't the way I would have done it. Let's just put it that way. Now, as a Christian standing outside an abortion clinic, it's very hateful. Then it was. This is probably about 15 years ago. So, um, it was very hateful. Not 15, not quite 15. I'm not that old, but 10 about. And I it was hateful, so I kind of rejected God even more there, because I was like, how these people are hypocrites. Like, they
Yeah.
they sin. And that was my stance on it then, was Christians are hypocrites. They sit there and they spew hate at people.
And that's
And
true. I mean, there's a ton of that very legalistic, superiority type mindsets. But,
exactly.
I mean, just like if you think about yourself, like if you were to go to one of those clinics just to try to speak to people like on their level out of love, I mean, that can truly change someone, and turn away from going through with the abortion rather than just saying, you're going to hell. And I
Exactly.
hear that so many times, especially with abortion testimonies, is they say that there were people picketing, whether it was multiple people or it was a single person, and just spewing all sorts of hate, like you're going to hell, God doesn't love you, et
Yes,
cetera,
and
et
that's not
cetera.
true. It's not true. I mean, I we've all sinned. That's the problem. And a lot of Christians, they mean, I feel like they think they mean well, but it's not out of love. Like you said, it's out of, like you said, legalistic. It's very, and I was like that too. I mean, I'll get to that, but I just at that point, that's where I was, and it kind of drove me down this atheistic path. This path that was, how could there be a God if everything is just so evil in this world, and the people that claim to be of God are just so terrible? So I'm sitting in the clinic and there's a woman next to me, and it was like, it's like a doctor's office. You go in there, you have surgery, and you come out. There was absolutely nothing that was felt. I didn't know how to feel. There were no feelings. I was completely numb sitting in there. And the woman next to me had actually had 6 abortions. And she was talking to me about how it's no big deal. You're in and out and this and that and the other. And I'm just, I can't believe it now when I'm sitting here thinking about it. It makes me want to throw up. But I, I did it. I went through it. The doctor was like creepily flirting with me and telling me how beautiful I was before I went under. I mean, it was just, you could tell it, even with the fact of how angry or whatever I was with God at that point, you could tell it was not a good place. So, just to backtrack a little bit too on the whole, people spewing hate and everything. I actually had tried to call a clinic before I went into the abortion, and it was actually a bunch of Catholics who had tricked people into calling this phone number to say that it was an abortion clinic, but it was actually like a Catholic house where they talked you out of it. So I had actually gone into this house. A nun sat me down in a room. She made me watch a video of a botched abortion and how they made me feel really uncomfortable. Like, it was hate. It was more hate. It was more, you're a
Yeah.
terrible person if you think about doing this. You cannot do this, God. This is not God's. There was nothing about the fact that it was a baby. There was nothing about the fact that this is doable. You have help. There was none of that. It was it was hate. So I went out of there angry and determined. There was no help there. So if for anyone listening that is one of those people who just, gets on people about things, there's no I understand you have to have truth in the love, and I do. Now I know, but there's got to be compassion for what that person's going through. You have to sit and listen to them. You have to hear their story because their reasons are not. I mean, my reason then was I first of all I didn't know it was a baby. I really believed that it wasn't a baby. I really believed it was some kind of just like a cancer. You could just remove it. Um, I really thought it was a choice. I really thought that I was doing something to help my life, that my life was going to be ruined if I had that baby, and that I was going to ruin my boyfriend's life at that time. And it was when you're a teenager in your early 20s, everything that happens to you in the moment could just end your life. And if people would just remember that, because I'm going to remember that for my kids for when they're teenagers, just every little thing. You spill juice on your shirt that day in high school and your life is ruined. I mean, these teenagers want to kill themselves over things that adults think are so minuscule, but we have to go back and remember how it felt with all those hormones and everything that was going on.
Hmm.
So, anyways, I went through that. And what they don't tell you too, because most of them have never been through an abortion, is immediately afterwards. It was like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. I was having panic attacks. Um, I wanted to kill myself. I was suicidal. I was depressed for 2 straight years and I could not get out of it. I was drinking, I was smoking heavily. I could not stay sober. I and I didn't learn. I didn't I had gotten, you know, yeah, more heavily at that time. It was like panic attacks when I was sober and working. So I would, get off every night. I would work. I was a workaholic. I was working 12-hour days and then no real days off, maybe like one or two every couple weeks because this lady had her own business. It was a small business and I was like, just work me. I'll work. I was trying to keep my mind off of Crystal, my heart. So I poured it into these dogs. So a little bit more down the road, as a few years go by and I'm just working and working, and eventually I meet another guy. And this guy was a personal trainer, and again, it was the next guy who gave me attention. I wasn't looking for someone. I just happened to be in the gym because I was, again, another addiction. I was working out. It was anything to fill that void. There was a void inside me and it was huge. I mean, from my family, from the abortion, from terrible relationships that I had had. From I couldn't fix anything. I couldn't fix anything myself. I eventually left. I had a falling out with the woman who owned that business, and she had kind of told me that I needed to leave her house and find somewhere else to live. So I had moved in with a woman who was my roommate, and she was just a friend that I had found who had brought her dogs to the place. And so the rent was cheap with her, so I stayed with her. And she was a heavy drinker, but she kind of acted like my mom, like she'd question things about where I was going and what I was doing, and I just shut her out of my life. It was back in like, why are you acting like my mother? I just live with you and I pay you rent. But this next guy that I was with, he was a personal trainer. I was working out at the gym. I was, again, like I said, trying to fill that void. And um, he was my God at that time. He cheated on me. And I knew about it, and I still just would crawl back to him constantly. At this time, I was still, depressed about everything, and it ended up we were having sex all the time, and it was like another addiction for me. So it was just constant, and I ended up getting pregnant with him, and I ended up having another abortion. I can't even I don't even know what I was thinking. I don't know, and it just it kills me now because I have 2 children, and I don't even know what to say about this guy. Was terrible, and I thought that for me, I thought um that was my life, and he had broken up with me on several occasions, called me crazy. I mean, it was a total narcissistic, manipulative. These are the guys I found. This was what I was going for.
Mm.
Um, and finally, when that relationship ended, I had reconnected with one of my friends I used to go to church with when I was still living with my dad when I was in high school. And we had just kind of talked back and forth and hung out a couple times, and it made me feel a little bit better. I know she was praying for me because she had told me on several occasions, because I told her about how I felt that there was no God. And it's still, when I say that, I can't even believe I'm saying it. Like, I sit here and I'm like, she must have thought I was so stupid. Um, but I, this is where you say those people, we get lost in our thoughts for a second. But going back and forth with her, I kind of rekindled some questions back in my head. Um, Now, when I was younger and I was in Catholic school, like, I was the type of girl who I got in trouble because I would ask things like, "Why do we pray to Mary when we're not supposed to pray to idols?" I just asked questions that, when I look back on it now, I'm like, "That's interesting. That's interesting that I thought to ask those questions."
Yeah.
So, I was always very inquisitive about faith, and if I would have just read the Bible, I would have figured it out. But I wasn't there yet. So I would talk back and forth with her, and she's like, "No, it's okay. You'll come back. You're not ready." And that thought stuck in my head. It stuck in my head for a long time. Um, Now, I actually had stopped talking to her for a little while. I come back to her because that's how I met my husband. Um, but I had started a new job. I had quit at the dog place, and I'm still living with that roommate. And this was a few months after I had talked to my friend Sarah. I'll use her name. And I actually got a different job. It wasn't a good job. I was working at a sex toy shop, so I was like on commission trying to sell all this stuff. So it was still down the wrong path, but the company was a bad company. They screwed over their employees. So I started stealing. Um Again, this is just more stuff trying to fill this void. I mean, and I can't even, every day, me and a couple of the other girls, we just took stuff. I mean, we figured out how to do it where we couldn't get caught, and I did it for like 6 months at least. I mean, I had probably, it was definitely a felony what I had. Let's just put it that way. And I, was promiscuous and can go out, and I had all these free clothes and toys and jewelry and all this. I was just living it up. And I got to a point where I was out at a party with some of my girlfriends who worked there, and I was drunk, and I said to another manager of another store, um, "Hey, do you want me to steal that for you?" And so I completely admitted to another manager that I was stealing. And so, of course, the next day, the cops were there and they were ready for me. So I'm sitting there, and none of the other girls, fessed up to it. I actually fessed up to it because clearly in my spirit I felt guilty. If I was going to admit it, the truth, they say the truth comes out when you're drinking.
Hmm.
So I just I told the cops, exactly what I did. And for some reason that district manager must have had a heart because she didn't charge me with a felony. I ended up getting a lawyer and being able to get out of it with it was um there was a fine that I paid, and I had to come to court with some of the stuff that I had stolen, and it was weird circumstances, but I ended up getting out of it as much as I could get out of it. Um and obviously I lost my job. So that was where I was like, okay, something's got to give. I spent a couple nights that week ashamed and crying and not knowing where to turn. And so I turned to this friend again. Um, and I talked to her, and, she was like, "I'm praying for you. I'm going to keep praying for you." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't want to talk to you anymore." So I called my sister in desperation, begging her because they own a restaurant to give me some employment because I've got to pay my way. I've got to live. And my roommate I don't want to tell her what happened. I did eventually tell her what had happened, and we talked about it. And, she hated me at that point, thought I was just this horrible person. But long story short, she was an atheist too, so she kind of got it. She, ended up just being like, okay, it's okay. You could stay here and I'll help you and this and that and the other. So anyways, I started hanging out with this friend Sarah again as I'm working at my sister's restaurant. I'm making like minimum wage. So it's like she was in Indiana, my sister was, and so was this friend. So I was like, look, I've been, single for a while. I was like, I'm really ready. Like, I'd like to see, if I could try to date someone who is a good person. Like, I was still at this point not to God yet, but I was listening to an evangelist on TV. Her name is Anita Fuentes. She's kind of hardcore. Some people don't like her, some people do, but she perked my ear up because she has a personality similar to mine. And this is where I got into the legalisticness of it. She was very like, I don't want to say that she preaches that you have to like do certain things, like not like Catholics do where you need works, to get to heaven. It was more so, yes, you're saved, but she taught like what I didn't understand at the point was the submissiveness, giving your life to Christ.
Hmm.
So my ears are perking up because it's different. It's not what I was used to. She didn't seem like a hypocrite. Um, she was harsh, like my dad, so I'm sure that's why my ears perked up too, where she was, I don't want to say abusive, but she was harsh. She's not like super sweet, like some people can be on when you're watching them on videos. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep watching her. And so, I mean, to this day, I still do watch her. She gives me a good beating. Um, but that's when my ears started to kind of like perk up because I was really low. I was really low at that point, and she was like the first person I started watching on YouTube. So I'm getting back and forth together with this friend, and she's telling me how she's continuing to pray for me and this and that and the other, and I'm seeing her life. She's got kids, she's got a great husband. She believed, in God, and she had submitted her life to Christ. And I kept telling her when I would go over to her house, like how jealous I was that she, had a home and was being taken care of and was loved and had babies. And she kept telling me how hard she had worked for it. And I just didn't get it. I was like, what? I don't get it. Like you have all this stuff, like what's your problem? But I mean, everybody has their problems. So I just was enamored with her life. And it turns out her husband had, nine brothers or they have nine siblings altogether, not nine brothers and sisters, sorry. And one of those siblings, she was like, well, he's single. Why don't you talk to him? So I did. And I ended up really liking him. And this time I was going to do things differently. I wasn't there with God. I was just like, I'm going to do this differently. I'm not going to have sex with him. I'm not going to, um, be promiscuous anymore. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm not going to treat him like a god. I'm not going to grovel, whatever. It is what it is. So I ended up just talking to him for one night. And we were sitting up on the couch just like the entire night. And he was like, can you come sit on the couch next to me? I was like, no. I was like, I'm going to stay on my couch. You stay on yours. So the next day we wake up and I called Sarah right away and I was like, what did he say about me? And she was like, he thought you were really cool. So I was like, okay. So we ended up dating for a couple of months and I thought things were going great. I thought that he was a very sweet person, very different demeanor than mine. He was different, cut from a different cloth. And I felt like we were very compatible. And he didn't talk to me then for 10 days. So I get home one night from talking to Sarah and saying, I'm okay, I'll deal. I've been through this kind of thing before, but there was no explanation for it. Um, I had not been home a lot, so my roommate basically hated me at this time. My sister was upset with me because I hadn't visited the kids because I was trying to figure out my own life. Um, I was in despair because he stopped talking to me. So at this point, I was actually listening to a Christian rap artist, and I'm crying on the floor of my roommate's house, just on the floor because I'm sad. The one person I thought like, okay, this could work. I thought like my life was going to get on a better track. I was like, I just started screaming and crying out to God. And I was listening to this song by this artist, and it talks about how in the end, God's going to wipe away all of our tears, and there's going to be no more crying and no more broken homes and no more, broken hearts. And the part about, like no kids not having fathers, or, not having being absent of fathers or whatever. And I broke down. And I remember being on the ground just screaming and crying and saying, God, I don't know what the heck is going on. You got to help me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I have no stability. I don't even know who I am. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I was so broken. There were so many things in my life that, even more than I've even spoken about now, that are just, they were broken. Everything was broken. And I just remember being on the ground, and I don't even remember if I said, I had to have said, Jesus, save me, because that was the moment. And not everybody has one of those moments, but I did. And it wasn't right away. I didn't feel like everything had changed in the blink of an eye, but healing started to take place. Um, and again, I didn't recognize it right away, but within months and weeks, he started talking to me again. Um, we started going, me and Sarah started going to church together. Um, and I kept watching the evangelist videos, and I submitted my life during one of her videos. Like, I was like, okay, I don't know if I've done this correctly. So I was like, Jesus, I need you to take over. I can't do it. I have no strength. I've done really bad things, and I've hurt a lot of people. I have broken every single commandment, and I really thought that I needed to like clean up before I came back to God. Like, I didn't think that I could just say, take me as I am. And I understand it more now than I did then. Like, even then, I thought I needed to clean myself up. Like, I was too dirty, to come to Him. And so He did. He transformed me. A complete 360. Um, I married that man. He's a wonderful husband. We are still. He didn't believe in Jesus at the time. He was raised Catholic as well, and he just didn't get it. They don't do a very good job of explaining salvation, biblically speaking.
Right.
So
It's an institution,
yes,
essentially.
it was indoctrination for me. It was just like, it wasn't. It was, now that I'm older, I get it. Like, I understand. I've done the research. I get it now. So I just. But I do know some Catholic people who, I mean, they will claim, they believe in Jesus. Just, it's getting off topic, but I'm pray for his family. His whole family's Catholic, and I know why I'm here. Let's just put it that way. I I've never shared with them my testimony, but they knew me when I first started dating Ethan. That's my husband's name, and they've already seen a change too, which is just the past 3 years. So that's where I can say that this thing that people call salvation it's a supernatural experience. It is nothing. There is no other way to describe it. You can't. It's this amazing grace. I mean, that's what it is. As cheesy as it sounds, like the song, but it's what it is. I I don't know how he did it, but he did. He completely gave me a new heart. And the heart that he gave me was harsh in the beginning. I remember when I first submitted my life, I was real hardcore, and I got into legalistics, and I was getting on my sister and saying, okay, well, but I'm not seeing you repent. you know, I'm not seeing you be convicted of this. I thought because I was convicted of something, that everyone around me who claimed to be a Christian should be convicted of that too. When we're all on our own spiritual journeys, I'm just now learning that that's not the way to be either. And that's why I can go back now and look at, like, he's teaching me love. I thought that I really thought that I think I was being partly legalistic in that aspect. I was like, okay, well, I was convicted of this, so you can't be like that either. Otherwise you're not a true Christian. Like, I was on people, like, and that's not loving. I mean, Jesus didn't just hang around Pharisees, he hung around the prostitutes and the sinners, and I mean, so it was I need to emulate him, and I wasn't in the beginning. So although he did save me, he's still working on me. So I definitely now am learning love. This church that I am at now is a wonderful church. The people really, they really do love. There's no condemnation. That's what I've learned at this church. Was the guilt's a lie. All of it. We're all gonna screw up. We're all sinners. But the difference between us is there will be repentance. There will be
Mm.
repentance. There will be genuine love and compassion towards other people who are going through that thing then, and you can talk to them and you can love them through it. And I almost lost my sister for about 3 weeks a couple of months ago. It was that recent because I got so angry with her. Um, it's just a long story short that she was doing something and she had done this something 3 times, and I was like, you're not showing that you're a changed person. You're giving Christians a bad name, like this and that and the other. And I can't judge her heart. That's what I've learned over this, is that I can't judge what she feels inside of her heart and what her motives are. That's for God. All
Mhm.
I can do is keep doing what I'm doing and keep letting God change me and just use me. That's I gotta, what I learned is that I can plant seeds because by the grace of God, he lets me plant those seeds and then he does the work. I'm not the one who has to berate people. I'm not the one who has to keep telling them what they're doing wrong, because that's what conviction is for. Like, I'm learning to love. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
It's it's been a ride, and I know I left a few things out, but I just it's amazing what Christ has done to my heart. It was completely trampled on, broken, smashed, put through a meat grinder, and it's completely being polished and shined and refined now. So it's amazing.
And just what you said, about having the patience with people and just seed planting. I mean, that's all you can really do. And in your testimony, you said that your husband has not yet received salvation. So I'd request everyone, say a prayer for him and his family. Um, but all you can do is just, try to be loving, and everyone's going to be, on their own timeline, so to say. And some people may have to fall, as hard as it is for us to imagine that, for people that aren't saved, some of them have to go through the quote unquote meat grinder.
Yeah.
And this is especially painful. You have two babies now, but when our kids start to grow up, that's even more painful, right? That they have to be on their own journey.
Yeah, see,
And
and
if
I think, sorry to interrupt you. I think
oh,
that's
go
what
ahead.
part of what God is teaching me too is through my sister especially, is that I have to, that's part of loving people. You give them the truth, and you have to let them fall, because I fell hard. And I'm sure there were people who didn't want me to go through those things. Even my atheist roommate, she didn't want me to go through half of the things I was doing. And I had to lose everything. I had to be broken so hard for me to go to God. I mean, and God knew that. God knew I'd be listening to the song that I was listening to that night. I mean, I don't listen to it anymore, but I mean, he knew exactly what I was going to be doing that night. He knew exactly what my feelings were going to be like, and he set me up completely to receive his grace. And I have to trust in God and know that if he can use me, to the people around me, that can happen for them too. They may have to fall. They may have to go through, and that is the hard part too. Our kids, it's terrifying. But if we trust God, he's got them, right?
Yeah.
So,
I just want to digress real quick. Kate Patel was wondering what song. Do you remember what song it was you were listening to?
You know what? It was Andy Mineo. The song was, I want to say it was like No More Tears or something. I can go back and comment later on the
Okay.
video and find out.
Yeah. But just going back to, our kids and everything, yeah, you don't want them to have to experience anything like that. But the most you can do is just surround them with love, teach them, surround them with people. So especially, as you start to try to work on your husband and perhaps on his family as well. Um, Actually, Relevant Truth, she sent this message to me. A couple people sent me the exact same Bible verses on the same day, which was pretty incredible because it just struck a chord with me. But remember that a prophet is not welcome in his own home. And sometimes you'll find that where you'll try to be teaching people in your own household about things that are biblical or how to find Christ, but it just really won't be accepted. But the best thing you can do is, again, be patient, be loving, try to surround them with people who are saved. And actually, that's what I'm doing with my wife right now because she is not saved either. But we're in a really good church.
Yes.
We're around a lot of people that have salvation, and it starts to slowly creep into their lives and starts to influence them.
Oh, I have great faith because it happened for me. And like I said, I committed every single, my husband's not nearly as bad of a person or as stubborn of a person as I was. So I have great faith for him. He does believe in Jesus. He just hasn't, I know he knows it's real. Because he's seen things happen. And I used to fight with him because when we first started, when we were first married, I was still drinking once in a while. I wasn't a heavy drinker or anything, but I did it recreationally. And I would get into these fights with him about how he had to change. He had to become a Christian. He had to believe, and I pushed. And it was the worst thing I could have done because it pushed him farther away. And once he saw that I started to just submit to God, I submitted to him too. And I have a really strong personality, so it's very hard for me to submit to another person, especially if I think I know more than that person. Um, I really desperately want him to be the spiritual leader of our household, and I know that someday, someday God will do it because that's the one thing I'm desperate for right now is for my husband to be the spiritual leader, to be the shepherd of this household. So I'm uh I'm trying to do what God tells me to do as a wife. And I want to be encouraging and I want to be loving. And I'm not saying that happens every day. I try.
Yeah.
it it's some that's my focus right now is I want to be a good mom. I want to love my kids. I want to be able to tell them and have God lead me when they're older about, when it gets into sex and relationships and stuff like that, the pain that can be caused and why God doesn't want us to do these things. And then if it gets to them, it they remember, if they get into a relationship and they're like, wait a minute, my mom told me that these things don't go away. It's pain, it can cause things that God doesn't want us to have, and that's why He tells us no. He's our daddy.
Yeah. And that's the simplest thing. I think I may have mentioned this in the last testimony session is, the mystery of God is so simple. Once you understand, it's so, so simple. And actually, I think I was talking with Michael. It was the first live testimony, right? And also saying the same thing with Vic because they were both brand new fathers. And being a father or a mother, you start to uncover the mystery of God so much more just because of
Oh,
the
yeah.
relationship you have with your child. I was just talking with one of my coworkers, and he's like, he was getting annoyed because it didn't matter what problem his son had, he's always going to call his dad. And he's like, "Why are you calling me? I'm at work. I can't talk on the phone." And then his wife told him, "What do you do when you're in trouble? You pray to your father. Your son's just doing the exact same thing. He's looking to his father for guidance." And so it
Exactly.
sort of humbled him. But there's so many similarities just with the relationships that we have between people, and the spiritual relationship we have with the Father. It's so simple.
Yeah, and I was noticing too. I was When I listened to your broadcast when you said that you were going to start doing testimonies, I got excited because I was like, I had been feeling in the spirit that this needed to be done. Somebody needed to do that. So it was like, it was very cool. It was a very cool experience because I'm noticing in the entire body of Christ now, just in the past 3 years since I've been so newly, eye opened, that there's so many people on the same page with things. Like he's doing a great work right now. And I know he's done it before, but there's just so much going on right now that I am now noticing, because I'm involved.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what I've been seeing, and it's a lot of people who don't know each other, and we're all going through the same things. I mean, it's incredible.
Yep. And I think everyone that I've had on has been saved within the last 3 to 4 years. So yeah,
It's incredible to me.
there's something. Well, we all know there's something going on,
Yeah, definitely.
especially in this point in time. Both the good and the bad side.
Yes.
Um, Crazy stuff.
I'm amazed at the fact that ever since I was a little girl, like from the age of 3 on, even when I didn't know God, that I guess I felt he really does choose his children. I mean, because no matter how wayward I got, he still allowed me that grace. Do you know what I mean? Like he
Mhm.
really, he knows who we are. He calls us by name. He knows us. So it's amazing. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, I still think about that. I think it's in Paul talks about it in Corinthians or Romans. I forget. I've always said that I'm not really good with memorizing Bible verses, but there's a verse in there where he says, um, Christ will come to those who the Father calls. And so literally,
Yes.
and it's so incredible to think about, right? That God picked you.
Yep.
I mean, he personally picked you. And in that moment that you were baptized by his spirit, I mean, God picked me. And everything that I've gone through, he picked me. And
Yeah.
you wonder, like, wow, like the God of the universe, the God of everything that's been created, reached out to just me. And it's
Yeah.
so incredibly humbling. And
It
it really
is.
makes you think, with you being, a warrior for Christ, that you're still on this wicked earth. You have to make good of your time.
It's
Like,
it,
if he's
that's
going to give
very
you
hard
that
for
gift, you
me.
better make good use of it.
That's very hard for me because I do when I first, probably last year was the second year of me being, submitting my life. It was when I got into everything that the world was so terrible. All the things that, and I'm still trying to find joy. It's everything around me was just bad. Everybody was bad. Everything is bad in America, and everything's just, so I'm trying so hard. It's hard right now. We're in a hard spot in this world right now. I don't
Yeah.
want to be here. I want to leave. So
Well, this is
so that's
cool, and I don't know if I mentioned this in one of my other testimony videos, but I was talking about how I wanted to start this part of the ministry, and I'm glad that yourself and other people were praying on that. You were hoping something like this would come along. So I'm glad, like God reached out to me and told me to do this, and actually, we're all connected together. But I remember thinking about this stems all the way back through my childhood because I was raised Catholic, um, all the way from preschool through college was Catholic education, and the whole time I went to mass, there's a priest who is single. Seems like they live relatively isolated lives, and they're teaching us how to live. And I'm like, I I don't relate to you. I'm
yeah,
sure before you were a priest, I'm sure you had life experiences and hardships and things like that, but I just can't relate to you. And nor can I relate to all the people that are subscribed to my channel. I haven't had an abortion. I haven't done drugs. I haven't gone through the multitude of things that other people have. But that's why there's so much power in the testimony and why people need to get it out more is that you can share your testimony and share the fact that there was a supernatural event where you were baptized by the Spirit and saved. It was an inflection point where your whole life has changed around. And this is what I came from and where I'm at now. And you can have the exact same thing just by submitting, repenting, saying that the Lord is your Savior, and essentially receiving the gift, because
Yes,
it
and
is that simple. It's not hard. It's just
yeah,
submission and receiving of the gift.
you don't need to clean yourself up. Like a lot of people think that I have to do X, Y, and Z before I come to Christ, and you don't. He cleans you up. He delivered me from murder, stealing, lying, cheating. I mean, I- he delivered me from drugs, from alcohol, from these are all things like, I mean, I have no desire for it anymore. I have no desire to drink anymore. I have no desire. I was smoking cigarettes too. He delivered me from that. There's still things I'm still working on, and he's
Yeah.
still working in my heart. I'm not perfect by any means, but like I said, even a few months ago, I was still pretty legalistic with my sister. But he's delivered me, and that's what keeps me going. Is this is real. This is no joke. This is spiritual warfare. We are in times where we need God more now than ever. So I pray for everyone who we're all interconnected here. We're all the body of Christ, and we need each other's prayer. And I agree with you on the whole, some people have been through some things and some, but I think that's why I wanted to share my testimony so bad, was because I mean, I know I left a few things out here and there that I couldn't, remember at the time, but I think I got the important points out. And I mean, I came from, hang on one second, sorry. Ruby girl. I came from, it was a rough, childhood, and I've shared tidbits on Facebook when people put harsh things up to people who are liberals or who are abortions. I have to step in and I have to say, Jesus breaks these chains. You can't stop. Mainly, it's been Catholics, my friends who are Catholics, who would jump in and say these liberals are crazy. They don't know what they're doing. And I'm, no, 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 no. They need love. They need Christ. He breaks those mental chains that you're calling mental illness. Like I have to jump in and I have to
Oh, can I
say,
interrupt you for 1 second? You just said a key word, mental illness. And then I'll let you finish your thought. I sincerely apologize for cutting you off,
no, you're
but
fine.
literally, the video that I'm likely going to put out tomorrow is about Lady Gaga, and she is a Catholic.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've seen the video that she put out in April with Prince William, but she talks about how she has everything she ever wanted: money, fame, all this stuff. But yet she wakes up every single day with anxiety and depression. And she completely attributes it to mental illness, along with Prince William, who is also facing depression because of the death of his mother, Princess Diana. And so these two are getting together, and they're saying that people need to embrace their mental illness.
Oh my
And
Lord.
the whole time I'm thinking here is, I was like, this is really sad for one thing, because Lady Gaga is in despair and she
Yeah.
doesn't know what true fulfillment is through God. um, I have a quote there saying, what is it to gain the whole world and lose your soul? That's
Mhm.
essentially what's happening to her. She's gained everything she's wanted, but she still feels empty. So
Yes.
there's this real true despair that you can see coming out of her, but she's also just leading everyone into deception.
Yep.
Just leading people away, saying that, oh no, you have mental illness. It's not that you need to turn away from material things and see Christ. But sorry, that was just awesome that you said that, because it was in the back of my mind how I was going to tell everyone about this video that I'm going to put out tomorrow, and then you just segued into it perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, these people that think that it's something to just, I mean, even these Catholics that were downing liberals and stuff. I mean, Lady Gaga is definitely a liberal. Um, Someone who, thinks that we should have the freedom to do whatever we want, no matter who it hurts. But the things that they were saying, and even with Lady Gaga, I mean, I know that she is giving her soul to the devil, whatever, however you want to say it. She's not giving it to God, but she needs Christ. I mean, if she were to accept Christ, he would change her too. So it's like it's incredible to me that these people even like you said, she's embracing it rather than, I mean, doing the obvious, what we all are, when you give your testimony and you've accepted Christ, it's obvious to me, but when I was there and when I was lost and when I was that liberal, I didn't see that. Satan is such a deceiver. He's such a deceiver. It's insane. He's so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I was at with these Catholic people. It's actually my roommate's sister and her like posse that goes to her church. They get on me because I'll talk about how you can't just spew hate at these people who are getting abortions. And I've opened my mouth a few times, and her sister has said to me, keep talking about it, Crystal. It's going to help people. Keep talking about it. Keep talking about it. And um, I just keep saying to people, like, quit condemning people. There are people who have had abortions in the past and are now saved, and you're bringing up this guilt that's Satan's work. Guilt does not mean it doesn't need to be brought back up. You're a changed person. Quit it. Like it's hard for me. It's hard for me because I was one of those people that they're talking about now, and I'm not going to forget that.
Mhm.
As old as I get, I don't want to forget that I've done these things. We're all sinners. I don't even want to say I was a sinner. I still am. I
Yeah.
just have Jesus. I'm saved. He's cleaned me up for God, so
And then there's a difference, your spirit and your mind are together now, and they recognize what's wrong. Whereas
yes.
before you reveled in your sin, right? I mean, I
So,
didn't think twice about my sin, before I was
no, me
saved.
neither.
But
No.
now it's completely different, whenever I sin, I'm like, oh, what the heck was I doing?
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, that was awesome. You did perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. I was nervous.
Everyone is, but yeah, you did perfect. I'll tell you what, the chat's going pretty strong right now. If anyone has any questions, maybe we'll spend like about 10 minutes or so. I know it's getting a little bit late. Um, but maybe in the next 10 minutes, if anyone has any questions for Crystal or me about her testimony or anything really, go ahead and shoot them off in the chat.
Yeah, I'm
Actually,
not
Crystal.
watching the chat, but you can tell me what the
Oh,
questions are.
okay. Or Crystal, even if you have questions for me, the whole floor is open to anyone for anything. Don't be shy.
Right. Honestly can't think of any questions. I'm happy I was able to get it out there. I'm happy. I hope I helped someone. I hope I helped someone who has a broken heart.
Yeah, there were a couple people way, way up in the chat. It's gonna be too difficult to scroll all the way up, but while you were going through parts of your testimony, there was some people that said, "Oh my God, that's exactly, what I've been living."
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because I really did think I believed, okay, I said the sinner's prayer, right, when I was like in my teens. So I was like, I'm saved. Now I can go drink. Like
Yeah, yeah. There's I think Mike and Vic, or maybe Vic, they both said the sinner's prayer and had the exact same situation as you. And you're like, "Oh, I'm saved."
I could just still do whatever I want.
Yeah. So Kate asked how long each of us have been married. Actually, I just celebrated my 5th year anniversary on Cinco de Mayo. So
Oh.
how about
That's
yourself?
awesome. We were married in November 2 years ago. So 2 years.
Let's see. Oh, let's see.
It'll be
So,
3 years this November. Sorry, 3 years this November.
let's see. There's one more question here. So I know this comes up a lot. I tend to not focus on it, but Adrian was talking about just perceptions on flat Earth.
Do you want me to be honest on this one?
Yeah, yeah. Say your
Total
piece, and
flat
then I'll
earther.
say mine.
I'm a total flat earther. I believe the Bible says that the earth is flat. It's fixed, it's immovable. It's that's how I perceive it. I feel like though it's not an issue of salvation. I feel like God
Correct.
brings everyone to their own, not to their own because it's not open to interpretation of understanding, but what he wants you to know, he's going to reveal it to you. So I believe that even Christians who read the Bible and totally deny flat Earth, I think eventually, if that's the real thing, he's going to reveal it to us. So
Yeah.
he's going to reveal it all anyway. So, but
Me
yes, I'm a total flat.
personally, so I haven't made my mind one way or another. So right now I'm thinking it's a sphere just based on superficial knowledge, essentially being
Right.
uh, believing what I've been told. However, I'm not discounting flat Earth. I just tend to not talk about it on my channel.
Yeah, it causes
Main
a lot of trolling. I've noticed.
What's that? Sorry.
I've noticed it causes a lot of trolling on other channels.
Yeah, yeah, it does. But personally, my calling and my upbringing, me being Catholic my entire life, me being taken out of Catholicism and being saved, me and my interpretation of Revelation, the prophetic chapters, and seeing Rome and the Vatican as Mystery Babylon, that is where I put all my time and attention and focus. I
Yes.
have very little time, between because I still have a
Oh my
full-time
gosh.
job, two kids,
Yeah, and there's
trying
so
to
much
do,
uncovering in
yeah.
just
I mean,
that.
I just don't have the time to really look into all the videos on flat Earth, but I don't
That's
discount it. Um,
that's why I say that things they'll be revealed to people as they come, because there's still a lot of things I don't know about the Catholic Church that, I mean, I've learned bits and pieces from certain channels and my own research. Um, but then I get worn down by it. There's a lot of occult stuff, and I get worn down, and I gotta back up out of it for a while and then go back at it. I gotta refresh myself in the word and then get back into what I'm fighting against.
yeah,
So that's it's a hard topic.
yeah.
Um, the Catholic stuff, not I'm not talking about the flat Earth. The flat Earth for me, um, it kind of came over me question because I question everything. That's why I believe that, and this is just me. I'm not saying anyone has to believe this way, but I believe that everything God has told us, that worldly wisdom is foolish. So for me, they've lied about everything else. Why wouldn't they lie about that? I mean, if there is if the Earth is flat and immovable and fixed, and there's no other planets, and all of NASA is a lie, it proves the Creator. I mean, that's just what it is for me. It brings glory to God. That's all
Yeah.
it is for me. So
And where I tread is my testimony starts to stem from 9/11. So just as you said, like it's very difficult to find truth nowadays. There's just way too
mhm,
much information. There's a lot of
yes,
misinformation, a lot of disinformation. Now everything's fake news.
yes,
But where I started was back in 2001. We had 9/11. I thought it was real. I mean, it was real, but the planning and who was behind it. But
yes,
then I became a 9/11 truther, and
uh-huh,
was quickly demonized anytime I spoke my view, even
absolutely,
though there was really definitive evidence. So I can understand how I felt. Even I thought I had, or I knew I had the knowledge of the truth, and just people were thinking I was crazy. So I can see that
yes,
from the flat Earth perspective. You know, I don't want to say, "Oh, you're crazy," because I
right.
haven't looked into it thoroughly enough myself to really say one
Well,
way or another. And even if I did, look into it thoroughly and I have my own opinion, I wouldn't call you crazy.
right.
Um,
Well, my one of my friends, sorry to cut you off, but one of my friends just recently, about a week ago, he just started coming to my church with his wife, and I've been keeping my mouth closed about the whole flat Earth thing because he likes to bring up arguments, and he brought that up to me one day, and he's like, "Well, you got to understand that for people who believe in a globe, and this is why I don't open my mouth about it much. For people who believe in the globe, when you're trying to explain God in the Bible and you say that the earth is flat, sometimes it will completely discredit you because they will think you're crazy. And that's why I don't open up my mouth about it a lot. But for me, all the evidence I've found, besides my own observation in airplanes and stuff, has been in the Bible. I don't care about anything outside of it. Whatever the Bible says to me, that's what I'm going with. So even if that's just what God has taught me, I'm gonna be homeschooling my kids, and we're gonna be learning the Bible. We'll learn what the world says, but I'm gonna let God lead me as far as teaching my kids and everything because I'm home. I'm blessed to be able to be home, and I want to school them the way schools are going. It's scary for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
but
Good
that's just my
point.
take on it. So,
Well, let's see. It's about 11:15. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Again, awesome testimony. Yeah, you actually, when I talk to some of the subscribers afterwards, I'll send you a couple email and we'll definitely keep in touch. But
yes,
everyone's so nervous. You go back and you listen to it and you're like, oh, my voice sounds terrible, or I said way too much, or all that stuff.
or
I gotta
like,
tell everyone, every single one of these that I've done, they've been perfect, and they've been
good.
absolutely perfect. I've gotten a lot out of it. I know you all have as well, and the subscribers too. Honestly, I think you did an excellent job, and I hope everyone that's been watching thus far enjoyed it as well. And remember too, this is live, and so once we conclude the live session, these videos have been getting, anywhere between 2 to 4 or 5,000 views. There's going to be a multitude of people that watch this afterwards as well.
Right.
So definitely keep in tune with the actual YouTube video and try to reach people. People may be asking questions in the comment section, and you can, go back and forth with them. If they need answers, you can, try to provide them to them. But I think you did
Yeah.
great.
Anyone who's, looking for help or questions or anything, I'm on Google Plus too. Crystal M. Bishop. So if you want to try and find me, I'll, add people as I can. So,
Okay. Yeah. And when you see this video pop up, go ahead and put whatever contact information you want in the comment box, and I'll go ahead and pin that to the top so people can reach out to you if they want to.
all right. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.
This was awesome.
I'm glad you wrote it to me, and you had, a very succinct testimony that just, I was able to read it in 2 minutes and get a real good grasp for everything that you went through and how you came out of it. So that was great.
That's exactly how it happened. I'll just tell you really quickly. Like I heard your video. It wasn't even the day you did it. It was a couple days afterwards. And when I messaged you, I was like, I don't know. It's a shot in the dark. I'll try it. I've been wanting to share my testimony, but it's not something you just open your mouth about to every person.
Yeah.
It takes something else. So,
Yep. And anyone that has written to me and I haven't gotten back to you just yet, I mean, I did get a lot of emails. So I just need to sort through them, but I get to y'all eventually.
and I did want to say too that I got a lot out of them too. I haven't listened to as many of the live ones that you've done yet, but I've heard other people's testimonies before and they've helped me. So, I just want to say it's a good work here. So,
Yep. Thank you. All right. Well, it was great talking to you, and I'll be reaching out to you in email. We'll maybe talk a little bit later.
all right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks to
All right.
everyone for joining tonight. I'll catch you guys in my video tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get that published. Again, it's going to be something on Lady Gaga and her sort of road to what she calls mental illness, and how that's a deception for her and also all her followers. So check that out tomorrow. So good night, everybody.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.